Have you ever stopped to think that the biggest barriers we face don't come from outside, but from within ourselves? That's right. Today, we're going to talk about how you can stop being your own worst enemy and start being your greatest ally. Before we continue, please like the video and subscribe to the channel because you'll receive some valuable keys to transform your life. Now, let's get straight to the point. Self-sabotage is something that affects many people, even those with big dreams and clear goals. It seems simple, you know what you want, you have a plan, but for some reason you can't put everything into practice. Have you ever experienced this? That inner voice telling you that it's not the right time, you're not good enough, or maybe tomorrow. That's self-sabotage, and it's present in our actions more often than we imagine. Self-sabotage isn't a conscious choice. It arises as a pattern of behavior we've created over our lives to avoid discomfort, risks, or situations where we don't feel fully prepared. But guess what? Life never waits for you to be 100% ready. If you wait for the perfect moment, it will never come. Let's start by identifying how this process works. Self-sabotage usually appears disguised in forms like procrastination, excessive self-criticism, perfectionism, and even fear of success. That's right. Often, the fear of achieving what you truly want is what paralyzes you. Pause for a second and reflect. How many times have you started something important and then, mysteriously, stopped? It wasn't for lack of time, talent, or resources. It was fear of stepping out of your comfort zone. And the comfort zone is comfortable because, within it, you don't have to take risks. But living without taking risks is also living without growing. But why do we do this so often? It has to do with how our brain is designed. It wants to keep us safe. Safety to the brain means predictability and routine. So, anything that breaks this routine, even if it's a positive opportunity, will activate the internal defense mechanism. And that's when the excuses start. You tell yourself that you don't have time, you need more information, or the circumstances aren't ideal. But these are just barriers created to keep you in the same place. And what happens when you sabotage yourself repeatedly? You convince yourself that you're incapable. You start to see yourself as someone who can't achieve their own dreams. And this perception, over time, becomes reality. If you don't believe in yourself, how will others? Now, an important point. Self-sabotage is not a final destination. It's just an obstacle you can learn to overcome. But to do that, you need to become aware of your behavior patterns. Let's understand how these patterns work day to day. Start paying attention to the moments when you procrastinate or doubt yourself. What are you trying to avoid? Often, the answer is fear of failure, but it can also be fear of success. It sounds contradictory, but think about it. If you achieve what you want, what will your life look like? Maybe you're afraid of new responsibilities, new challenges, or simply the unknown. Now, the first step to getting out of this trap is to take responsibility. No one is going to do this for you. No one can take the reins of your life. Self-sabotage only has power as long as you allow it to. When you decide to prioritize yourself, you begin to change. And change is necessary if you want to achieve different results in your life. I invite you to do a self-assessment now. What behaviors are preventing you from moving forward? Think about your goals. What could you have already achieved if it weren't for these internal blocks? Take a few minutes to reflect. Identifying these patterns is the first step to breaking them. If you don't prioritize yourself, no one else will. In the next section, we'll talk about practical strategies to combat these self-sabotaging habits and, more importantly, how you can start putting yourself first. Don't wait for life to do it for you. Take control now. Stay with me because next comes the most important part. How to break these negative patterns and transform your life. You're about to discover the tools that will help you overcome self-sabotage and take the first steps toward the life you truly deserve. That was the first part of the text, focused on a direct and practical approach as requested. In the next part, we'll cover specific strategies to break self-sabotage patterns and how to prioritize yourself in your life. Part 2, Practical Strategies to Overcome Self-Sabotage. Now that you understand how self-sabotage works, it's time to dive deeper and discuss practical strategies to overcome this obstacle. The first step is simple but powerful: becoming aware of your behaviors. You need to start noticing when you're sabotaging yourself. What happens in those moments when you start procrastinating or doubting your abilities? Let's talk about concrete ways to identify and break these patterns. 1. Identify self-sabotage patterns. The first step to overcoming self-sabotage is recognizing that you're engaging in it. Often, we're so accustomed to these behaviors that we don't even realize we're harming ourselves. So, how can you identify self-sabotage in your daily life? Procrastination. How often have you postponed an important task because it wasn't the right time? It may seem harmless, but it's one of the biggest signs of self-sabotage. When you procrastinate, you're essentially telling yourself that you're not ready or that you won't succeed. The problem is that by delaying, you build up pressure and anxiety, which only feeds more self-sabotage. Perfectionism. Another common behavior is perfectionism. You feel that nothing is good enough, so you don't finish or even start. You get stuck in details, thinking you can only do something if it's perfect. The truth is, perfection doesn't exist. If you're waiting for everything to be perfect to take action, you'll never start. Fear of success. This might sound strange, but many people fear achieving their goals. Why? Because success brings new responsibilities, new expectations, and sometimes puts us in uncomfortable situations. Your brain prefers the known over the unknown, even if the unknown is better. This fear prevents you from moving forward. Now that you've identified these patterns, you need to learn how to combat them. 2. Set clear and realistic goals. One of the most effective ways to combat self-sabotage is to set clear goals. When your goals are vague or too broad, it's easy to get lost and do nothing. So, the key here is to define objectives that are measurable and realistic. This gives you clarity and keeps you focused. For example, instead of saying, "I want to be healthier," which is too broad, say, "I will walk for 30 minutes every day." This is a clear, easy-to-measure, and achievable goal. Additionally, break your goals into small steps. If you try to do everything at once, you might end up feeling overwhelmed and give up before you start. Small, consistent steps are better than large, sporadic leaps. Practical tip: grab a piece of paper now and write down 3 goals you want to achieve in the next few weeks. Then, break these goals into small, specific daily tasks. This way, you'll have clarity and can move in the right direction without sabotaging yourself. 3. Act immediately, the 5-second rule. Now, let's talk about one of the most powerful strategies, the 5-second rule. This concept was popularized by author Mel Robbins and is incredibly effective for overcoming procrastination and self-sabotage. Here's how it works. Whenever you notice you're delaying something or about to sabotage yourself, count down from 5 to 1 and act immediately. This interrupts the self-sabotage pattern and forces you to act before your mind starts making excuses. It's a simple yet extremely effective technique. Imagine you need to start a task but are procrastinating. When you feel the resistance, just count 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go, and begin the action. Could be getting out of bed, opening your computer, starting your workout, anything you're avoiding. By acting before your mind has time to sabotage, you regain control. Try it right now. Choose a task you've been putting off and use this technique. Count to 5 and simply start. You'll be surprised by the impact. 4. Reinforce the positive and practice self-compassion. Another crucial step is learning to be kinder to yourself. Often, self-sabotage stems from harsh self-criticism. You constantly judge yourself, thinking you're not good enough, that you won't succeed, or that you always fail. And you know what happens? You convince yourself it's true. Therefore, you need to start practicing self-compassion. When something doesn't go as planned, don't harshly criticize yourself. Instead, acknowledge the mistake, learn from it, and move forward. Perfectionism will only paralyze you, while self-compassion will give you the strength to keep trying. Reinforce the positive. Every small achievement is a victory. Celebrate each step you take, even the small ones. This will motivate you to keep moving forward. 5. Surround yourself with positive influences. Last but not least, your environment has a significant impact on your behavior. If you surround yourself with people who are also stuck in self-sabotage, who complain all the time, or who lack ambition, it will be harder to break your own negative patterns. On the other hand, if you surround yourself with positive people who encourage you and remind you of your worth, it will be much easier to overcome self-sabotage. Surround yourself with influences that motivate you and challenge you to be better. Practical tip: honestly evaluate the people and situations around you. Is there someone who always brings you down or constantly demotivates you? Distance yourself from those influences. Invest in relationships that help you grow. Now that we've discussed these practical strategies, I want to remind you of one important thing. You have the power to change your life. You don't have to keep repeating the same patterns. All you need is commitment and action. In the third and final part, we'll talk about how to transform these strategies into permanent habits, creating a cycle of continuous success. Stay with me because in the next section, we'll tie everything together and outline the next steps so you never sabotage yourself again. That was the second part of the text, more focused on practical strategies to overcome self-sabotage and start acting immediately. In the third part, we'll address how to maintain these habits in the long term and consolidate personal growth. Part 3. Turning strategies into permanent habits. Now that you know the practical strategies to combat self-sabotage, let's talk about how to turn these actions into permanent habits. Because, let's be honest, you might have the best plan in the world, but if you can't maintain it, the old self-sabotage patterns will inevitably return. So, how can you ensure that everything we've discussed so far isn't just a temporary change but something lasting in your life? 1. Start small and be consistent. One of the most common mistakes when trying to change is attempting to do everything at once. It might be exciting at first, but the truth is, our brains resist drastic changes. That's why many people start with all the energy and then quit completely within days or weeks. The key here is to start small but be consistent. Instead of trying to transform every aspect of your life at once, focus on small changes that you can sustain. Remember, consistency is more powerful than intensity. Small, daily actions repeated over time bring the greatest results. For example, if you want to improve your productivity, instead of trying to change your entire routine at once, start by adjusting just one part of your day. Could be waking up 30 minutes earlier to plan your tasks or setting a block of time to work without distractions. It doesn't matter what it is, as long as it's sustainable. Once this new habit stabilizes, add another. 2. Regularly monitor your progress. Did you know that one of the reasons people give up on their goals is that they don't track their progress? When you don't monitor what you're doing, it's easy to lose motivation or even forget why you started. So, create a simple system to monitor your progress. It could be a journal where you note your small victories, or even an app that helps you track your daily goals. The important thing is to have something visible that reminds you how far you've come. Additionally, the act of tracking your achievements, even the small ones, creates a sense of satisfaction and accomplishment. This helps maintain the positive cycle of action and reward, making it easier to keep moving forward. Practical tip: set a day of the week to review what you've done. See what worked, what needs adjustment, and celebrate your achievements. Don't expect huge results all at once. Value every small step forward. 3. Create a reward system. One of the most effective ways to consolidate new habits is to associate these behaviors with immediate rewards. This is because our brains love rewards. When you do something positive and reward yourself for it, you're essentially training your brain to repeat that behavior. Now, I'm not talking about extravagant rewards. They can be simple, like allowing yourself some downtime, watching an episode of your favorite series, or even eating something you enjoy. The important thing is that your brain associates that positive action with a feeling of pleasure. For example, if your goal is to complete a difficult task at work, you can reward yourself with a relaxing break after finishing it. This creates a positive feedback loop and helps keep your motivation high. Practical tip: create a reward system for yourself. List a few things you enjoy and can use as rewards each time you complete a task or goal. This will help you stay focused and create a cycle of success. 4. Be prepared for obstacles. Even with the best intentions, it's inevitable that you'll face obstacles along the way. There will be days when you don't feel motivated, days when old habits try to resurface, and situations that will test you. And that's okay. What sets apart people who successfully create lasting changes is that they don't give up when they encounter these obstacles. Instead, they prepare for them. They know that motivation can fluctuate, but discipline is what keeps them on the right path. Practical tip: make a list of potential obstacles you might face and write down solutions for them. For example, if you know you get demotivated when you're tired, have a plan for those moments. Something you can do to recharge your energy and keep going. 5. Reinforce your identity. One of the deepest changes you can make is to start seeing yourself as someone who no longer sabotages themselves. Because ultimately, the actions you take are directly linked to how you see yourself. If you see yourself as someone who always procrastinates or never follows through with plans, guess what? That's exactly what will happen. But when you start identifying as someone who takes action, who prioritizes themselves, who pursues their goals, your actions change. So, every time you catch yourself taking a positive action, reinforce it in your mind. Tell yourself, I am someone who takes action. I am someone who prioritizes my growth. It might seem simple, but over time, these affirmations will help consolidate your new identity and distance you from self-sabotage. 6. Rely on a support network. Last but not least, remember that you don't have to undertake this journey alone. Having a support network can make all the difference. Whether it's a friend, a family member, or even an online community, sharing your goals with people who encourage you can significantly increase your chances of success. When you have people around you who believe in you, support you, and remind you of your worth during tough times, you strengthen yourself. Additionally, sharing your achievements and challenges with others creates a sense of accountability that keeps you on track. Practical tip: find someone who can be your growth partner, someone with whom you can share your goals, progress, and challenges. This mutual support can be one of the most powerful tools to overcome self-sabotage. Now you have everything you need to stop sabotaging yourself and start prioritizing yourself. I've shown you how to identify self-sabotaging behaviors, how to set clear goals, how to act immediately and consistently, and how to maintain these new habits in the long run. The question is, what are you going to do with this knowledge? Will you stay in the same place, repeating the same patterns? Or will you take control and start acting differently from now on? The choice is yours. Remember, you are capable of change. You are capable of becoming the best version of yourself. But to do that, you need to leave excuses behind and start acting. And when you do, you'll realize that all the potential you've always had was there, just waiting for you to unlock it. If this video helped you in any way, leave a comment, share it with someone who needs to hear this message, and subscribe to the channel for more content that will help you transform your life. Now, go ahead and make the change happen. That was the third and final part of the video. Here, we consolidated the strategies, reinforced the importance of consistency, and concluded with a direct and motivational call to action. This will help the audience feel empowered to apply what they've learned and share their experiences.